the storyline from the starting pitcher standpoint is that George Kirby is going to have some demons to face in this one. Last time around, he's already pitched in this series. This is a rematch, I believe, of Game 3, where George Kirby and the Mariners lost 13-4. Kirby gave up 8 earned runs and only 4 innings of work. And Shane Bieber was good in that one. So we've seen a bad game from Shane Bieber this postseason, but it wasn't in that game against the Mariners. So this is the pitching matchup that we get tonight. But Jenks, it's been tough because we have seen these roller coaster performances from some of these starting pitchers. Like even last night with Trey Yesavage going for the Blue Jays, coming off a really bad performance and then bouncing back in a big way for a big performance for the Blue Jays. So it's one of those things where you look at George Kirby and you say, okay, maybe that was an anomaly. And there has been games in which George Kirby has been very good. And even though he is a young guy, he has pitched, I think, in 3 elimination games thus far in his young career for the Mariners. So it's not like he hasn't been to this stage before. It just, for me, it's a matter of like which lineup just gets hot. So I don't really have a feeling in this one, but I will say this. If we're talking about totals, the real sabotage factor for and over is 2 pitchers who absolutely deal. Like we don't need 7 shutout innings from anybody, but I feel like that's not coming. Like, even when you see these guys who, you know, even Shane Bieber, who looked really good last start, once you start to see the same pitcher over and over again, I do feel like the advantage goes to the hitter. So I think Shane Bieber can be good in this one, but I think he can still give up a couple of runs.
Well, and you know what? The numbers bear that out. He's given up at least 2 runs in 5 straight appearances. So he'll be consistent, but he will get hit. And there are some pitchers who are just like that, right? He's not going to pitch 5 2/3, 6 shutout innings. That's just not what he does. And he won't go past 6 innings in this game. But also that's important to remember because if he's going to get hit, and if George Kirby is going to get hit, which I think is going to happen, then that lends itself to betting an over. So if you want to bet it at 7 and a hook and not lay the juice, I totally get that. I think that's a perfect play. Just the way this series has gone, and if you look at these starting pitchers, it's harder for me to make a case for the under outside of, hey, it's a Game 7.
Well, and even if you think, hey, that these guys are going to have really short leashes, like you're threatening me with Luis Castillo, who gave up like 3 runs and 2 1/3 last time out. Oh, and Bryce Miller, who did do well on Friday, 1 run over 4+, but still, like, you're not threatening me with Tariq Skubal, you know? So it just feels like these guys can certainly come in and give up some runs as well. So it's one of those games where, again, I feel like runs are the way to go. I will say from a hitter standpoint, maybe some hitters to single out. We know George Springer has been like Mr. October. Like he's tied with Bernie Williams for like the most career postseason home runs. I think he's like in the top 5 list. Would not shock me if he has a big game in this one. I would imagine his hits plus runs plus RBI is going to be 1.5. I think that is a solid play, especially for somebody who's leading off. He's usually in the leadoff spot, so he can score some runs in this game. If you think it's the Blue Jays side of the coin that's going to score some runs. Or, you know, what a storybook ending we'd have for the Mariners if we have a big game from Cal Raleigh, you know, and he's been good this postseason. Like in the regular season, it was all about the home runs for him. But during the course of the postseason, you know, the hits have been there as well. So, you know, if you want to play props, I think those are 2 guys to certainly consider.
Yeah. And Raleigh was not great last night. I think he had 3 strikeouts in the game. So not that I'm pressing for the do theory, but as we've seen throughout the entire postseason, these big-name stars, after a bad performance or after a couple games of struggling, tend to ball out, which is another reason why I like the over here. I'm really big on the over, and I'm really curious to see how the Mariners handle this pressure. Like, I think it's a real thing, because if you're Toronto, you've been in this spot before. Historically, I think Seattle, I think they know and they feel the pressure of history. And certainly it's just one game. I mean, it's a long series, but when you're talking about Seattle, you're talking about a franchise that has never been in this spot. They know it. We know it. The Blue Jays know it. And last night, remember, they had 3 errors in that game.
Yeah.
Twice they had the bases loaded. And twice they grounded into inning-ending double plays. So I wonder if that pressure was a factor last night. Maybe it wasn't, but certainly 3 errors in a game 6 doesn't bode well for game 7, which is why, again, I'm kind of leaning Blue Jays here. But there's no question a guy like Cal Raleigh could step up. I just hope we see a great game 7. I'm excited about the game, but again, I don't feel comfortable with the side here. I'm just going to bet on the over.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. It's funny that you mentioned the errors because sometimes like that's the way that you see the pressure unfold. But it does feel like kind of an anomaly because I was looking at like the past 2 games before that and the Mariners didn't have any errors. So maybe it's one of those one-off games where it was just, a sloppy game and maybe they'll tighten things up. But again, like in betting, when I don't feel great about either side, that means I shouldn't be betting on it. So I'm probably not going to pick a side, but I do think it's going to be very, very entertaining. And we will just hope for runs because wouldn't that be more entertaining anyways? So we will go with the over in that game.